I think. I think
Yeah.
we've all been there. It's, 3 in the morning, you're just staring at the ceiling, and the noise of life,
Hmm.
it just gets too loud.
Mm.
The financial stress, the heartbreak, the sheer pressure, it all piles up until you feel this overwhelming urge to just hit stop.
You look for the exit ramp?
Exactly. The logic seems pretty sound in the moment. If I just shut this machine down, the
Yeah.
pain stops.
It's a deeply human reaction. We equate the end of the mechanism, the body, with the end of the experience. It's the off-button theory. If
Hmm.
the computer is glitching,
You pull the plug.
pull the plug.
Right. But we're looking at a stack of sources today that take that theory, crumple it up, and just throw it out the window.
Yeah.
We're deep diving into a collection of philosophical scripts and visual metaphors that center around a concept called Mahabhul.
Mahabhul. In the original text, it translates to the great mistake. And the sources we're unpacking today aren't just saying that, checking out early is sad or tragic.
Mm.
They're arguing that it is a massive tactical error in the grand scheme of the universe. They pose this terrifying question. What if the button you think ends the pain actually amplifies it?
That is the thought that stops you in your tracks. So our mission today is to decode these sources. We're going to look at the cosmic system, the concept of the Jivatma, and this really vivid, this car and highway analogy that frames the whole argument.
And I want to be clear right up front, this is heavy material. But as I was going through the research, I realized the conclusion is actually, well, it's incredibly empowering.
Really?
Yeah, it shifts the narrative from being trapped in a hopeless situation to being resilient in a tough environment.
Okay, let's get into it. The sources start by challenging the very definition of death. They use a metaphor that I found really accessible, the light switch.
It's a great place to start because it challenges our visual bias. If you and I are sitting in a room and I flip the light switch off, what happens?
It goes pitch black. I can't see you. I can't see the furniture. Practically speaking, the room is gone.
Correct. And if you were strictly relying on your eyes, you might assume the room has ceased to exist, or that the sun outside has suddenly vanished. But the source makes a critical distinction here. Turning off the light inside doesn't mean the sun has set. The world is still moving, the sun is still shining, you're just standing in the dark.
So they're applying this to the body. Just because the biological machine stops, the lights go out, that doesn't mean the consciousness involved has just evaporated.
Exactly. This is where we have to define a key term from the text. The Jivatma.
Which is often translated as soul, but in this context it feels more technical, like conscious observer, or even energy packet.
That's a much better way to view it. The Jivatma is the energy that powers the machine, and the source of material is adamant. This energy is immortal. It cannot be destroyed by physical means.
So destroying the body is what?
It's described as merely moving from one room to another, or closing a door. You don't disappear, you just change location.
Okay, but here's the part that really unsettled me. If I move to the next room, what do I take with me? In the movies, or, in popular culture, we tend to think you leave everything behind.
You float away on a cloud, unburdened.
Right.
In these sources, not quite. You take the most dangerous thing of all with you,
What's that?
your internal luggage. The text explicitly states that you take your memory, your consciousness, and crucially, your pain with you.
Wait, unpack that. Because the whole logic of hitting the stop button is to escape the pain. If I'm heartbroken, I want the heartbreak to stop.
And that, according to the text, is the illusion. The driver, the Jivatma, survives the crash. So if you're trying to escape a feeling of deep anguish or mental torture by destroying the vehicle,
You're making a huge miscalculation.
a massive one, you're destroying the container, but the contents, the anguish, remain attached to the driver.
That's a haunting thought. It means there's no zeroing out.
Precisely. It challenges the entire idea of oblivion. If consciousness is continuous, then the state of mind you die in is the state of mind you carry over.
Which brings us to the core framework of this entire deep dive, the car and the highway. I love analogies because they make these abstract spiritual concepts so concrete. So lay this out for us.
Okay. It's a systemic view of existence. Imagine life is a long, singular highway. It stretches from the moment of your birth all the way to your natural death. Now, the cosmic system, you can call it the universe, nature, God, whatever fits your worldview, has assigned you a specific vehicle for this journey.
That's my body.
Your physical body is the car. You, the Jivatma, you're the driver behind the wheel, and the highway is your life experience. Now, the sources acknowledge a very real, gritty truth.
Which is
This highway is not smooth.
understatement of the year. Some days it feels like off-roading without any suspension.
Right. The text describes bad roads, steep climbs, deep valleys. It talks about engine trouble, the heat, the car breaking down. These aren't just metaphors. They represent bankruptcy, defamation, divorce, chronic illness.
Mental health struggles.
Exactly. The source doesn't sugarcoat it. The ride can be incredibly rough.
And this is where the great mistake comes in. The source describes suicide in a very specific, very mechanical way within this analogy.
It does. It visualizes it as the driver getting frustrated with the potholes and the scorching heat, pulling over in the middle of the highway, getting out and smashing their own car with a sledgehammer.
Wow, such a violent image. You've destroyed the only thing protecting you from the environment because you were mad at the road.
And then deciding to walk. That's the kicker. You haven't left the highway, you've just destroyed the vehicle designed to get you across it.
Okay, so then what?
Well, the source asks us to imagine the consequences. You are now stranded on a desolate, hot highway. You have no air conditioning, no metal shell, no radio. You're on foot.
And the most terrifying part of that description was the logistics of what happens next. You can't just call an Uber. The text mentions a waiting period.
This is a key detail in the source that really drives the point home, because you broke the cosmic system's rules, you destroyed the car assigned to you before the lease was up. There isn't a replacement waiting around the corner.
It mentions centuries.
Century, or even thousands of years. The source suggests that because you exited the vehicle before the destination, you enter a sort of transit limbo. You have to walk that highway, exposed to the raw elements of your own suffering, for an indefinite amount of time until a new body becomes available.
It changes the perspective entirely. You think you're escaping the heat of the drive, but you're actually stepping out of the air conditioning and onto the hot asphalt without any shoes.
Precisely. It reframes the act from seeking rest to choosing exposure. You are trading a difficult drive for an impossible walk.
This leads us to the concept of cosmic punishment. Now, I want to push back on this word punishment a bit. It sounds very judgmental.
It does.
Like an angry deity striking you down with lightning because you broke a rule. Is that the vibe of the source?
Actually, no, and it's a really important distinction. The sources are careful to frame this not as moral judgment, but as a natural consequence. Think of it like physics.
Like gravity.
Exactly. If you jump off a roof, gravity pulls you down. Gravity doesn't hate you. It's not punishing you for being on the roof. It's just the law of the system.
Right.
The source argues that the spiritual world has physics too. If you destroy the vessel that anchors you to the physical world, the natural consequence is that you are untethered. It's a cosmic consequence.
If you break the car, you must walk.
Simple as that. It removes the anger from the equation and just leaves cause and effect.
Yes, it's mechanical.
Yeah.
You broke the machine, so now you don't have the machine.
Mm-hmm.
This is where the source material gets into what they call the nightmare phase. And honestly, this was the part that really stuck with me. It describes the mechanics of suffering without a body. It talks about an amplifier effect.
This is a fascinating, albeit harrowing, psychological insight. To understand it, we have to look at what the body actually does for us when we're in pain. We usually think of the body as the thing that causes pain.
But the source argues it's actually a filter.
It's a filter. Give me an example from your life. If you have a splitting headache, what do you do?
I take an aspirin, I rub my temples, maybe I turn off the lights, put on a podcast, or try to take a nap.
Right. You have physical tools, you have hands to massage the tension, you have a brain chemically capable of sleep. You can distract yourself, watch a movie, call a friend, eat comfort food. The body acts as a buffer. It filters and dilutes the pain.
It lets you take a break.
Exactly. It allows you to take a break from the suffering.
I see where this is going. If I don't have the body, I lose the buffer.
The audio source describes the state without a body as a sensory trap. Imagine you have that same mental anguish, that mental headache, the depression, the anxiety, but you have no hands to rub your temples.
No mouth to scream.
No mouth to scream to release the tension. No ability to sleep or take medicine.
You're locked in.
You are locked alone with the raw, amplified frequency of that pain. The source describes it as a dark phase, where the distractions are gone. It's just you and the emotion you were trying to escape, but now it's 10 times louder because there's no physical world to absorb the shock.
That is terrifying. But it follows the logic of the source. If the pain is in the consciousness, killing the body just removed the mute button. It doesn't stop the broadcast.
That's the perfect analogy. You've removed the mute button and the volume knob. You're stuck at max volume. And that is why the source argues that the relief one seeks is the ultimate illusion. You're trading a temporary struggle, which might last a few years, for a long-term, amplified ordeal that could last centuries.
Okay, let's take a breath here, because that is heavy. If the text ended there, this would be the most depressing deep dive we've ever done.
Right.
It's basically saying, don't do it, or else. But the sources don't just leave us on the side of the road, do they?
No, they don't. And this is why I said earlier that the message is empowering. Once they establish the stakes, the why you shouldn't, they pivot pretty hard to the how you can. They want to move us from being the victim of the road to the observer of the journey.
So how do we fix the car? Or at least, how do we keep driving when the road is garbage?
The text challenges us to look at why people destroy the car in the first place. Usually, it's for what the source calls material illusions.
Financial loss, a bad breakup, a ruined reputation. The stuff that feels like the end of the world.
Correct. The source argues that these are problems tied to the temporary identity, the costume you're wearing, not the eternal self. There's a great line about bankruptcy in the text. The source argues that losing money is just a chapter in the book.
It's not the whole book.
It's not the whole book, but well, when you're in that chapter, it feels like the whole book, doesn't it?
It feels like the ink is bleeding onto every other page.
It does. It consumes your focus. But the source says, when you destroy the car, you're burning the whole library because you didn't like one paragraph. It's a problem of scale. The source wants you to zoom out.
So how do we practice this shift in scale? It's easy to say zoom out, but when you're hurting, that's really hard to do. The source introduces a concept called the drashta.
The drashta, or the witness observer. This is the first practical tool in their resilience toolkit. And the source uses a movie analogy to explain it.
Lay it on me.
Imagine you're sitting in a cinema, you're watching a high-stakes drama, the hero on screen is crying, the villain is winning, everything's falling apart. You might feel emotion, your heart might race. You might even cry.
Sure.
But do you run up to the screen and try to tear it down? Do you hurt yourself because the character on screen is suffering?
No, because I know I'm sitting in the seat eating popcorn. I know I'm safe. I know it's just a projection.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You are the audience, not the movie. The source says we need to apply this to our own lives. You are the drashta. You are watching the drama of your life unfold. The driver is distinct from the road conditions.
So, practically speaking, when I feel overwhelmed, I should step back.
You use language to create distance. This is a cognitive behavioral technique too, by the way. Instead of saying, I am angry, which fuses you with the emotion, you say, I am noticing that I feel anger.
I am noticing that the road is bumpy right now.
Yes. It separates the you, the eternal soul, from the mood, the temporary weather. It reminds you that you are watching the storm. You are not the storm. The storm will pass.
But you will remain.
You will remain.
That's a crucial distinction. It stops the emotion from hijacking the steering wheel.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the source also mentions another layer of support. Because even if I'm watching the storm, driving through it is still hard. They introduce the cosmic administrator.
This is the second tool. It's the belief that you are not driving alone. The source describes the cosmic system, or God, as a co-passenger in the vehicle.
But there's a rule about this, right? Because if God is in the car, why doesn't he just take the wheel and drive around the potholes? Why are we suffering at all?
That's the million-dollar question. The source explains this through the rule of free will. The administrator is always there, ready to help navigate, but they won't force the wheel from your hands. You are the driver. You have to ask. You have to connect.
So it's not a passive rescue. You have to initiate it.
Exactly. It's that feeling of, I don't have to carry this whole load by myself. The source implies that many of us are just white-knuckling the steering wheel, refusing to look at the navigator sitting right next to us.
And that is a massive psychological shift.
Yeah.
The source says that the belief that you are not alone makes massive mountains look like dust particles. When you realize the administrator is in the car with you, the pothole doesn't seem like the end of the world.
It's just a bump that you navigate together. And I think the key word there is together. Isolation is the breeding ground for that stop button feeling. The source is trying to break that isolation.
I really appreciate how the source frames this. It's not just have faith and do nothing. It's utilize your resources. You have a navigator. Use them.
And that leads to the final and perhaps most relatable analogy in the text, life as a school.
The school of life, we've heard it before, it's almost a cliche, but how does the specific source use it? Does it add anything new to that idea?
It uses simple, brutal logic to counter the idea of suicide. If you were in school and you fail a math test, what do you do? Ideally.
You study harder, you get a tutor, you try again. You don't burn down the school.
Exactly. Burning down the school doesn't help you learn math. It just stops the lesson. And crucially, it deprives you of the chance to graduate. The source mandates that we are here to learn specific lessons. The struggles, the heartbreak, the failure, the grief. These are not random punishments. They are the curriculum.
So the difficulty isn't a bug in the system, it's a feature.
That's it. They are the exams designed to help us recognize our true strength. If everything was easy, if the highway was always flat and sunny, you'd never learn how to really drive. You'd never understand what the car is capable of.
So if I'm going through hell, it's not because the universe hates me, it's because I'm in an AP class.
That is a beautiful way to put it. The source suggests that the intensity of the struggle is often a measure of the lesson's importance. We are here to evolve, not to delete ourselves. The goal is to realize that you are the actor,
Not the role.
not the role. The role might be suffering. Maybe you're playing the role of the bankrupt businessman or the grieving partner right now. But the actor, the soul, is intact.
It's incredible how these sources take us from such a dark image, the stranded driver on a hot highway, to this sunlit realization of being an actor on a stage. It really changes the texture of suffering. It doesn't deny the pain. It acknowledges the pain is real, but it gives it a purpose.
And it restores dignity to the struggle. It reminds us that the body is a gift. It's a sophisticated vehicle designed to protect us while we learn these hard lessons. Destroying it is a rejection of the opportunity to grow.
So let's summarize what we've unpacked today. We started with the light switch theory, which tells us consciousness doesn't end, so there's no true off button to escape the pain.
Then we look at the car and highway analogy. It warns us that stepping out of the vehicle early leaves us exposed and stranded in a nightmare phase where pain is amplified because we've lost our physical buffers.
And finally, we looked at the toolkit for staying in the car.
Right. Shifting into observer mode so you aren't consumed by the storm. Trusting the co-passenger or administrator so you aren't driving alone. And most importantly, reframing the hardships as a curriculum we are meant to master, not a trap we need to escape.
That's the takeaway. Stay in the car, keep driving. The road eventually smooths out.
It always does. No storm lasts forever. The weather always changes.
Before we wrap up, I want to leave our listener with a thought that came to me while we were discussing the school analogy. We often ask, why is this happening to me, like we're victims of a random, cruel world?
Yeah.
But based on everything we've read today, maybe the better question is a bit more proactive.
Juan.
If we accept to the source's premise that life is a school designed specifically for your soul's evolution, and if your current struggle is actually a custom-designed lesson just for you, what exactly is it trying to teach you before you're allowed to graduate to the next level?
That is the question that changes everything. It turns the pain into a puzzle to be solved.
Thanks for diving deep with us today.
Safe travels.